Uh-oh, new clef. Okay, this is your G clef. G clef, because this is G. G above middle C.
What is the bottom one?
The bottom one is called bass clef,
Oh.
or F clef. The reason it's called F clef is because F is right between these two dots.
Between what?
These two dots. That line is
So someone just got really clever and made these exciting little symbols, and then they call it that. And
Yes.
Correlate it to.
And everybody has to learn it that way.
Yeah.
exactly. And then the funny thing is this came before the piano, so then they had to mishmash the piano to fit
That's
everything.
why, okay.
But people were singing and doing all kinds of playing lutes and other strange instruments. I have no idea how they work. But anyway, they were doing that back in the day, and this came before that stuff. Okay, this bass basically are the lower notes here on the piano. Okay, that F is always, 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 always going to be this note on the piano. So from there you can count up or down on your little clefs. I mean, on your little staffs. Okay, you can play a scale: F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now this C is important. Middle C. Okay.
Can you show the F again?
The
In
F on the
relationship
piano?
to the G that you did earlier.
Okay. Okay, this is the F for the F clef. That's your starting point for that clef to
Yeah.
figure out where things are.
Yeah.
This is your G.
That's right. Okay.
For
And it's
G.
an octave between.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, there's a little space in between. And I'm going to show you how that works. I'm going to make little circles instead of the letters now. Okay, these are ugly, but they will do, I think. So here's F. Okay, we know that. That's that key on the piano. Here's the key right next to it, G. Here's the key right next to G, A. Here's B. Here's middle C. Now, one thing about middle C is not where the piano splits in half, because there's way more notes, way more piano keys on this side than on this side, okay? The reason it's called middle C is because it's in the middle of the two staffs. This is where they diverge, where they come apart. They go off in different directions, okay? This is middle C, whether it's your bass clef or your treble clef. It's the exact middle point between the two clefs. Then it goes up to D, E, F, etc. Okay? Does everybody feel like they would be able to figure out what letter name the lines and spaces are? Okay.
I know the belly button goes up to the middle C.
Right.
And then it's all alphabetized one way or the other.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So if G is the last A, I would assume you're saying this G is on the right of the middle C.
Right.
So that A would be right next to that going up.
Yeah, that would be right next, that would be up here, right? This is bass clef, meaning you're using the bottom half. When I say bottom.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
so that's actually going this direction.
Yeah, and a good way, I'm going to give you a visual that seems to work with my kids when I teach them. This is a big stairway for a long, skinny house, okay? Down here is the basement. I tell them that's where you keep your zombies and your mummies and your washer and dryer. That's the basement down here, okay? Up here is the attic where you keep your ghosts and your other scary things that are high up, right? And then as you walk up the stairs, you're going C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc. And you're going up this little staircase. Line space, line space, line space, line space.
But if you're doing bass here, and you were going G, A, B, it would go backwards, wouldn't it? Or are you starting with a G down
Oh,
there?
that's a good, okay, I see what we need to go over.
I'm a little confused.
Yeah, no, let's go over all of that.
You have the middle C and what's on each side, but the bass and treble being one side or the other, it's like, where are we starting here?
Okay, okay. Now, it has to do with what direction, God, you can't really see that, can you? It has to do with what direction the notes are going. Can you see that okay, if I put blue?
Yeah.
Okay. When the notes are going in this direction, they're going up toward the attic on the keyboard. Okay? And when they're coming this way, they're going down towards the basement. Okay? We have your zombies and mummies and things. Okay,
And is that opposite for bass then?
no, they're exactly the same way in that way. The only thing that changes are the letter names of the lines and spaces. They move down a little bit in the bass. They stand for different keys. Let's do a whole other thing on the bass and treble and how that works together.
And the lines and spaces are different on the two sides.
They are, they have different letter names. And then there's other clefs too, you know, for different instruments that have different letter names. So if you really got nutty about it, you could learn all the letter names for all the different clefs. Which some instruments you have to do. In the cello, there's
Are there a lot? What are we talking
there's four that I know of, just because I haven't really dug in to see if there's some obscure ones. There's the treble clef, there's the bass clef, and then there's another one called the C clef, which really is the notes in the middle. But you don't have to know that because they're covered by these other two clefs.
Oh, they are.
Okay, it's just duplicative. But it makes reading easier if you're playing your cello and you're like, okay, there's too many ledger lines, too many of those added lines on top, and I can't read it readily. So they give you another clef that puts it in perspective. Is that working?
Yeah, it's like where you're playing, so,
Yeah.
so you don't have to travel to two clefs or something.
Right, well, sometimes in the cello, when you get way up on the fingerboard, the fingerboard is where you put your finger.
Right.
If you get way up there, you're gonna have your let's say this is your clef here, and then you have to add lines, because there's only 5 lines and 4 spaces.
Right.
So even if you have bass and treble clef, you have to add lines underneath and above to hit every key on the piano, okay? So if you're playing the cello and you got this many, you're like, well, I can't count that many lines right now. So they give you another clef that puts it in the middle.
Right.
But it's duplicated by the bass and treble. Is
Your
that
starting
working?
point is always G, right in the middle. right
That's
C.
where I'm sitting.
Middle
so-
C, that's where we're gonna go.
Yeah.
Middle C is where we're gonna start, and I'm gonna show you how that works. Okay. So you got that when the notes are heading in this direction, they're going up toward the high notes and going down towards the low ones, right? Okay, good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there we go. Okay. All right. Now, middle C. Middle of the class. Looks like this in the bass clef, looks like this in the treble clef. Okay? And from there you have D. Now, middle C is right here. Okay, so that D is this D. Okay? The E after is this E right after middle C. Working? Okay, good. Now, let's go down. We're gonna go down now because we're going towards the lower notes. Now this is B.
So
All right.
Middle C is a staple beta then,
Yeah,
even though we're looking at the top of this.
right, right.
If you had complicated music, would you put the two together and you
Yes.
have, okay, like you said, you have to have enough lines, so you've got the whole dang
Mhm.
thing.
Let me tell you a little secret. The piano is a mirror of every single instrument in the orchestra. Okay, you have your flutes and your piccolos and all kinds of crazy stuff up here. You have, you know, violins come down to here. They're actually pretty, you can get pretty high on a violin, right? Violas, which is like a big violin but lower. Cellos way at the bottom, or not way at the bottom. Then you got the string bass, that giant thing. Wow, yeah, it's awesome. So that's just the string section, but then you have a bunch of other types of instrument. Flutes are up there, piccolo, those really high things, you know, when you play a march or whatever. And then you have tubas and a bunch of other instruments that I really don't know exactly where they fit on there, but everything fits. Your whole orchestra's right here. That's why it's so great for piano, and that's why you always learn keyboard when you study music, because you can write your symphony right here. Oh, here's the tubas. They're going to play that part, you know? So, another thing about the piano that I will tell you is it's a relatively new instrument. They used to have harpsichords. So Bach, in the day of Bach, right, which was Renaissance? No, he was Baroque, which came after the Renaissance, right? Yes. Thank you, Angela. 1600s. Bach. He didn't have a piano. He had a harpsichord. Piano's full name is pianoforte. And in music, piano comes from Italian, and it just means gently, softly, piano, piano, okay? Forte means loud and with force. Back when they had harpsichords, harpsichord was an instrument that looked like a piano, but when you push down the key, a little thing came up, let's see, and here's your string and it plucked it. Okay, so it didn't matter how hard you banged on your harpsichord, it would never get any louder. It was all the same loudness. Somebody said, I'm gonna come up with something that now when, instead of plucking your string, it's gonna bang your string, and if you can bang it really hard, you know? And so you have, let's say piano, barely hear it, forte, right? Piano forte, loud soft. That's the name of it. It's a loud soft. So I think that's awesome. Anyway, does that clear that up for you?
Yeah, I don't, yeah.
Okay, we've got another little question mark floating.
Yeah, I just don't know what music actually looks like on a sheet. Does it actually look like the two of those are actually together? I mean, I know what it looks like. We just had the book that I just gave that we have.
I know.
But
Well,
I
let's
don't
look at it.
remember I'm having like 8 lines, like this solid 2 things.
Well, a piano staff looks like
Oh,
this.
okay, actually.
Well, that's a piano.
Right? Your left hand and your right hand.
Oh, nice, but I wouldn't, so I only learned part of it.
Right.
I don't know what happened anywhere else.
The violins are lucky, they only have to learn the treble
I
clef.
know, I didn't even realize that this was all there.
Oh,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
she's on the high end of the.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
at the top, those are the only notes I ever knew.
Yeah,
Oh my
you
gosh.
never.
And now look at this from
Okay.
here, I can tell,
Can you
okay,
see
so
that?
this is
Oh,
how I.
this is
now-
a piano.
This is a piano and voice book. This is the voice
voicer.
part.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
I got the big book of children's
Yes,
songs.
thank you.
Okay,
For those that need glasses.
now, this top line is the singing part. This is a songbook that I bought to play with my kids. Old MacDonald had a songbook.
Yeah.
That's kind of, here's the part you sing. Here's your piano part. You see it always
Okay,
has a
so
little
there
brace.
it is. Okay.
There's the bottom half of the piano, there's the top half.
Okay.
And middle C is right here in the treble. And right, well, that's confusing because you can hardly see it, but right there in the bass. You see, that's the same note.
The one that's in the middle, which is
Right.
off the chart.
Right, it has
In
a
the
ledger
center.
line. These things are called ledger lines when you extend it up or down.
It's off the ledger line, right? So
It's
right
on a ledger
below.
line.
Right
Ledger lines,
there, right? So
yeah.
it's-
This little short line that goes through it is called the ledger line.
Oh,
And you can put those to extend the staff down or up.
Okay.
Like violin players that play way up high on it, there's lots of ledger lines. It gets very confusing at times.
Okay. Would it look like a bunch of lines like, this always stays the same, but the note goes way higher with no lines?
If you want the note to go higher than this, you have to put more lines.
Okay. So there's always the ledger lines, those are.
Right, right, and they only last for one note. You're not gonna see them extending across the page. Each note gets its own ledger lines.
Oh, I had to ask something. So you say when you see note with the line straight through, it's actually the line, instead of a line, that you don't draw the whole line?
Right, well, no,
Uh-huh.
we're talking about ledger lines. Let me just draw you some ledger lines.
I think
Because
that
that
never
can be
really
very
does that.
confusing. All right, let's say you're playing the violin, and you play this F, but you still have a lot of violin left to go, okay? And let's say you want to play a high C. You want to play this note,
These are ledger lines.
which people play on the violin all the time. In order to do that, since, once you get up here, you can't just keep writing these things, because you're like, what the
Yeah.
heck does that mean, right? You can't read it readily, okay? So you have to add little lines, and these lines very, very temporarily are extending the staff
I
up.
see.
Okay, they can also extend the staff down, and this is a ledger line because it's not on the staff, it's below the staff. Does that make sense?
So the middle C, that's its ledger line.
Right.
And then you can even play with the little,
Yeah.
like if she did the violin, she only had treble, but she hit a lower
Right.
something or other.
Her lowest note would look like this. Here's 2 ledger lines. That's your open G. Okay, first finger would look like this. First finger on your G string would look like that. Let's see, forget it.
Yeah.
Okay, do we need to do that? Yeah, we do, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, here's your cute little staff here. Now, here's your G, right, 2 ledger lines,
Right,
right? When you're moving up this way, you're putting fingers on.
right.
Okay, when you're moving down this way, you're taking fingers off and going from skinny strings to fat strings. Okay. First finger on your G string looks like that, that's A. Okay. Second finger looks like this. And then here, E is middle C. 3 fingers on your G string. Okay? 3 fingers on your G string or middle C on the piano. Yeah. Yes. questions on anything we've gone over so far?